Hi, my name is Linda Castillo, and I am the founder of Modern Latina and also the Modern Latina Book Club, where we feature literary works from Latinx authors. And today I'm super excited to be here with an author, Ruthie Marlenée, who wrote the one that we've been reading in Modern Latina Book Club, Agave Blues. And so this book, thank you so much, Ruthie, for being here. And thank you also for curating. We were very fortunate this past month for you to be in our book club, providing discussion questions. But I'm super thrilled to be here today to talk to you a little bit about the book and get to know you better as an author. So I wanted to just start off about just share a little bit about yourself and how you came to become a writer.
So I am a wife, mother, writer, Latina. My mother was Mexican, and her family was from the region that I talk about in the book. So I was born in Orange County, lived in LA. Now my husband and I live out here in the desert, the Coachella Valley. I got into writing as a little girl. My earliest memory, just because my mother saved everything and left, and I'm going through things right now. So I was writing poetry as a little girl. Junior high poetry was pretty deep what I was writing. My seventh grade teacher said, "Is everything okay at home?" So that's when I decided to kind of keep stuff to myself and maybe do some journaling. And the journaling led into like short stories and things like that. So the writing has always been my safe place, and it's a way that I can process my feelings. So that's how that got started. Thank God for writing.
Yes, I love that. And I love the fact that your mom saved everything. I think I'm going to be that mom. I have tubs and I keep everything. And I think giving it to your children and they can kind of see what they'd like to keep is so special that your mom did that for you.
Yes, she hung on to everything. So
Love that. And you talked a little bit about how you were from the area that was featured in this book. So I wanted to talk to you about what inspired you to write this book, and how this book differs from other novels that you've written.
I'll start with the second question about the different novels. The different novels, one was they all have something to do with me a little bit, and it's just a way to express myself and say what's going on without really saying what's going on. And that's why I tend to fictionalize a lot of things. And there was a question about the magic realism, is just to it's like I'm disguising it so nobody knows what's really going on. And if you can relate, well, that's good. So so this one is a little bit different because of the magical realism aspect of it. My last one, Curse of the Night. Oh, this one came out 2020, Curse of the Night, and it also has a bit of the paranormal in it. But it's a book I wrote about my father's side of the family, my white side of the family. Agave Blues is my Mexican side of the family. So um, so you have to have some magical realism in that, and you have to have some tequila and uh, some of those other cliches, perhaps. But it's what we all know, you know. So yeah.
Well, I love how you're pulling into your own heritage for both your books and your works that you've created. I wanted to talk to you also a little bit about, for those who have not read the book yet, maybe you could provide a brief synopsis and perhaps read one of your favorite passages.
Let's see if I saved a synopsis here. Oh, well, I should be able to read it on from the back of the. I pulled one up, but then I was going to make it shorter. So on the back of the book, what it does say is sometimes la sangre atrae, the blood calls you back. And when Maya gets the call to go back to her agave roots in order to claim the body of her long missing father, her world changes forever. Set against the backdrop of her childhood Mexico, Agave Blues is the story of ailing attorney Maya in a broken relationship and butting heads with her teenage daughter, Lily. Maya has sworn never to return, but once she sets foot on the mystical grounds, she uncovers the turbulent history of her family and how tequila has blurred the secrets that have altered her life, both emotionally and physically. She realizes what's been missing in her life: magic, mystery, art, unconditional love, and the stories of her past, including the myth her father used to share with her about her grandfather, Pancho Villa. The fields seem to heal her and her relationships, and so she extends her stay and further reconnects with her family. But when she comes in contact with the handsome yet haunted Antonio, we always have to have a love interest, her childhood crush resurfaces, only to cause her more grief as she tries to learn the tequila business or to master the art of tequila. So, would you like me to read the passage a little?
Yeah, if there's a short excerpt so we can get a flavor of your style of writing. And for the folks that haven't read your book, it's a teaser for them.
So, oh gosh, there's so many things that would give it flavor, but I'm going to skip right to chapter 3. A good tabernero listens. She's Maya, as the synopsis indicated, has gone down to Mexico to claim her father's body. So she's just identified it in the morgue and stumbles out onto the cobblestone street of this fictional town, Sagrada Familia, which is really, in real life, it's Jesus Maria. So she stumbles out. Cantina, the blinking neon sign beckoned me. After identifying my father's body, I stood across the street from the morgue, blinded by the Mexican sunlight, contemplating the windowless tavern wedged in between two whitewashed casitas. Like a couple of strays, sadness and fear came licking at my heels. I scurried across the road, heels clicking over cobblestone, and stumbled into the dark watering hole, instantly sucking in the familiar tang of sweat, cheap cigarettes, beer, and tequila. Sad mariachi music I'd learned to despise, blared out of the jukebox. Undeterred, I approached the bar and took a seat on a three-legged rickety stool. I gasped when I saw my reflection through a smudged mercury glass mirror on the back wall and quickly smoothed back my unruly hair. I noticed how my brow furrowed with stress like tiny rows raked across a field of pain. My eyes feel gritty, and peering closer, I see my sclera red as the soil of the region. My iris is still the color of agave. I looked around, surprised by what I didn't see. No young people, no young men, no women of any age. Everyone who'd been able had left Sagrada Familia to go north long ago, like my mother, brother, and I had. Tucked into a dark corner sat a man, ancient as Rico Van Winkle. Behind me, at a small lacquered metal table with cerveza painted in black letters on top, were two more mature, scrawny, milky-eyed men hunched over their beers. The skeletal bartender, dusty as the bottles on the glass shelves, flashed a gold-framed, toothy smile as he approached me. A shot of your best tequila, por favor, I said, setting my father's belongings down onto the counter. I pulled out my cigarettes and only stared at them before stuffing them back into my purse. I'll read a little bit more. The barkeeper rubbed his bony hands together, grinning mischievously as he backed away. He twisted around, creaking as he reached up for a bottle on the highest shelf. He dusted off the jug, pulled off the wax seal, uncorked it, and brought the lip to his nose. Inhaling deeply, the cavernous wrinkles on his face smoothed out like a tumbled river stone, and when he opened his cloudy eyes, I noticed they were amber, the color of the tequila he was pouring into two small glasses. As soon as he opened the bottle, the mixed bouquet took me back, both the sweet scent of my childhood and the bitter odor of my father. We'll drink to Joaquin Hidalgo, said el barman. Wait, you knew my father? And I'll just stop there. He was a regular. The father was a regular at the cantina.
Yes, thank you so much. And since you was at the bar, you talked about tequila. I'm going to jump ahead a couple of questions and just ask you a little bit about the research that you did to really understand the tequila business, and if you knew what that process was, because you really go into detail. And I felt like Maya, even in her journey, she was reading more and learning more. And I was thinking, well, Ruthie must have had to do something similar. Were you able to visit tequila businesses and what that process was like?
Sure. In when I visited a couple of tequila distilleries, factories, fabricas. Maybe I'll back up to another question I saw as what motivated me or why did I write this particular story? Um, I had gotten a call. I'd been getting some emails from somebody with my family's last name. I didn't know who they were. I had a daughter in Mexico. Actually, I have two daughters. Both of them, one had done some, um, not foreign exchange, she was studying there. Another one was working there. And one called and said, Mom, you need to come down. You need, the family is asking for you. So almost like, as is written in the book, she's being La Sangre Atrás, she's being called down. I was being called down. And I hadn't been back to see my cousins and my aunts. Actually, they were just cousins, my mother's cousins, for like Maya, maybe 20, 30 years. So I did go down. It was almost exactly like was written in the book. I found an angel pin and things like that. And I needed to get down there. So immediately they took me, the family, once I got there, the family members took me to the tequila fabrica. And then another uncle showed up and took me to his fabrica. So he was the uncle that nobody really liked because he was the rich uncle and the other ones were for the poor family. And they were like both trying to show me the business. And so I visited a lot of time. I bottled, I traversed the fields, I labeled, I sampled a lot, the differences. I learned about I drank straight out of the barrel, not the barrel, it was a steel vat. That was for the Blanco, which is, straight out of the vat. Then we aged the reposado, which means rested, reposed. That's like 6 months rested. And that was they used Jack Daniels oak barrels. And then after that, you've got the añejo, which is aged 2 years or more. And all of the agave the agaves aren't picked for anywhere after 8 to 12 years. So there's a process. And it's a process that's they've been doing for centuries. So I did my research. I went a few times, and it turned out that the one uncle wanted me to was trying to see if I'd be interested in distributing it here in the States. And I thought, I'm not into the tequila business. And while that would have been nice, I mean, I did come away with a story. So.
Love it. There's you mentioned the blood calls you back, and that was a common theme throughout the book. And the main character, Maya, at first you're thinking, she seems to be running away also from her situation in Southern California. She's got some things going on there with her personal life, but then in a way, she's, the blood's calling, it's calling her back, but she's actually facing her things instead of running away. Like that's how I interpret it as I read it. But why did you have this? This is a common theme, and I think it's mentioned throughout the book. So I wanted to talk to you about why it's so important.
I kept hearing it myself in real life. I kept hearing it, and it's true. You are called back. I mean, you can't run away from who you are necessarily. She's gone north to get away from all that, to assimilate, to have the good life, live the American dream. But she's still Mexican. She still has, her roots are still in Mexico. And there's a part in the book too where it says that you're never lost. I mean, something about you're never lost. Though those who love you will find you. So her ancestors are always there, and they know where she is, and they've led her back. So her blood ancestors, I suppose.
Yeah, and maybe we can segue with, talking about the blood ancestors and the way they appear, and the use of magical realism in your story, and why you thought this was such an important element to add to this one. And as you explained, it's not in your other works. So I'm just curious to see Was that something that you intentionally brought in during the writing process? You thought of, oh, I'm going to have this, or did it naturally develop as you were writing the book?
It naturally developed as I was writing the book. It just unfolded that way. I, in my research, I was reading a lot of things about the area and just my own experiences there. Um, I've recently, and I wish I would have been more prepared for this, but there was something that came out. I don't know if I saw it on Facebook or where, about Latinas are writing with magical realism. Um, Women from Chile and Peru and South America, Central America. It's a form of writing something that's so painful. It's a tool to write this way with the magical elements. Um, for me, it makes it more palatable to read, easier to swallow, because nobody wants to really hear all the, you know, I deal with some interesting issues in the book. I run the gamut of all kinds of things, and to put that little magical element, it's not as harsh, I guess. So, and I was dealing with some tough subject matter, and I think adding the magic made it a little bit better. Um, just an easier way to tell the story, and a different way to a different perspective also. Kind of take, because if it's not real, it doesn't hurt that much. If it's not real, then it's not real. It's a lot of things are in your head.
Yeah. And
And
sometimes it helps you handle those things in your head, right? Is to kind of make them not real a little bit, just like you said, when you're dealing with such heavy situations.
you kind of have like an out of body experience, or let that experience leave your body.
Exactly. So I love that this book has so many different characters and so many different stories within each character that seems to uncover, as the story goes on. I was just curious, do you have, I mean, we all love Maya. I mean, she's awesome, but I was just wondering if you had a favorite character, and if so, who is your favorite character and why?
Well, of course, it would have to be Gabrielle. Her cousin that she remembers growing up with and being a child with. She left her childhood behind at 11 years of age, and she grew up really fast once her family left, and once they left her father down there. But Gabriela was the one that she was a child with, who she ran through the fields with, and fast forward to when she returns, he's still out in the field, um, not acting like a child, but living his passion, and doing the things that he loves, and he's doing what makes him happy. So she learns a lot from him, as well as a lot from Don Pio. So they're kind of like the same character, Don Pio and Gabriel.
Yes, yes, I loved him as well. And I think that, those conversations that she has with him really help her discover herself and kind of navigate the journey that she's embarked on. And I wanted to talk to you, as we're talking about the tequila farm and her experiences there. As she's staying there, she starts to feel better. And I don't think it's not only her stomach, which she calls, she has a name for her stomach and
But
cancer. And I'm trying not to give out too many details for the folks that haven't read and are interested in getting this book. But also a healing element, just as who she is, discovery and letting things go, and forgiving. So I wanted to talk to you about why that was important, and how it's took place there in her homeland.
Probably the field might be a safe place for her. It might be a what do you call it, a place card, not a place card, but a place that she can be herself. It's a safe place for her. I chose that just because her whole, as you can see, watch her whole life unfold there, and take the direction of perhaps Don Pio and everyone else. You touched on the ailments that she has. So when I was in Mexico, I discovered that there is indeed research on the agave plant at the University of Guadalajara. So I had communication with a doctor there, and I stress that while it's not a cure, the agave, it is a way to treat patients with these sorts of ailments. And at the time I did the research, it was like 2008, 2007, 2000. Things have come a long way since then. I mean, there are things in the medical field right now out there, like immunotherapies and things like that, miraculous drugs. So I'm not saying that agave's done any of this, but at the time I was doing the research, they were optimistic. And so I figured, why not? Let's see. So I did back it up with research, and my disclaimer is it's not a cure, but so yeah, she's got a lot of stuff, and I kind of just gave her that on top of all her other stressors. So and dared her to work all of those situations out.
I'm just curious. I love the ending. I love the positive. I wanted a great ending for Maya. I felt like she struggled so much. I was so happy, the reconnection with her daughter. And I even felt, hopeful that her mom and her, a couple, it kind of led to like, oh, even her mom and her, might have been, getting closer, as she was going to ask her more questions at a later time about Victor. So I'm just curious, did you think about alternate endings, or were you pretty sure you were going to go in the direction that the book went in?
Well, not to give the ending away, but yeah.
This was a hard question because I didn't want to say exactly what it was, but I'm just curious, did you, just as a writer, I mean, maybe that's a more general question, so we're not giving away too much, but do you know the ending, or is it, as you're writing the book, do you kind of let it unfold naturally, and then maybe you write different endings and kind of see which one you think would, I guess, make the book or the story?
Right. Yeah. So if you want to have readers, like you just said, and you would like a nice happy ending, or when you're submitting to agents or publishers, they're looking for something that fits a certain way. I don't know, but I've heard and I've seen before, like in maybe other countries, it doesn't have to be that formulaic. So a satisfying ending is what I think the term is. And I did play around with the end before I came up with this ending, because I love the idea of what if she didn't make it? Um, then what? So that's a whole other story. And but then that would because in life sometimes that's the way things go, right? But then that would throw everything that she'd learned, everything that we've learned as readers, that would throw everything out the window. It's like,
Right.
wait, she just forgave, and she just so
Yeah.
and I also had a different ending too. And I had an editor friend say, okay, just end it right there. Stop it right there. Because after the chapter where it ended, I was adding something more onto her new relationship.
Mm.
Um, and and I thought, you know what? I could do a sequel.
Yeah, I was just thinking, even with her daughter, Lily, and her interest in tequila
Yeah.
and where that takes her. So, is there anything you want to add about Agave Blues before, I have one other questions, kind of more general, but I'd love to, anything about the book that you would love readers or potential readers to know?
Um, I think this is a book that it's a feel good kind of book, and it's got a lot of helpful hints in it. I studied a lot of Don Miguel Ruiz and his philosophy. Um, and it's just a book filled with a different way to look at a different perspective on life and the situations that we go through during life. You know, we relationships, children, parents, alcoholism, cancer, you name it. It's in this book, and she has to work through and around all these situations. I don't know that she does it perfectly, and she probably doesn't resolve all of the situations, but it's just a different way to get through all of that. So it's a hopeful book.
Yes, I agree. And I like the fact that, um, Maya has like, she puts it all out there, like her, it just in her daily, just some of the stumblings that she's having. And I was just like, oh, wow, I could see myself in that instance, like it, she's very strong, but yet you see a weak side of her, as, throughout the book, but you see the two parts of her character for sure.
Right.
Um, so I was just curious, if you would let us know what you're working on, or if you have any plans to work on any future books, or what we can hope to see from you.
Okay, so right now I'm working on getting a couple of short stories published. They're actually excerpts for two other novels that I got in my drawer here. I've got two novels that I hope to complete before I go off into the field somewhere. But right now I'm working on the sequel to Curse of the Ninth. It's called And Still Her Voice, and it will have a bit of paranormal again. I can't help myself. I also try to write it without this voice, that this, and still her voice. It's a young girl, 16. Her grandmother's voice is in her head, or her grandmother has transferred her consciousness into her. So whether it's real or not, we don't, the reader is left wondering, is she crazy or is this really happening? So I'm working on that, and um, it deals a lot with the issues that we as humans are going through again right now. It's set in 1967, 55 years ago, I think, and all the same issues, the segregation, race, assassinations, birth control, Roe v. Wade, black versus white, the brown berets, the Black Panthers, all of that. This young girl is navigating through as a biracial young girl
Wow.
living with Nazi neighbors.
Oh my goodness. Well, that sounds like it's going to be a really wonderful piece of work, and I'm, it's in the works. So hopefully you can keep us posted and share on the Modern Latina Book Club Facebook group, when that is published. We'd love to hear from you. But I just want to say thank you so much, Ruthie, for taking part in this book club of the month and being a part of this conversation today.